The end of Peter's world begins with a flash in the sky. A shockwave hammers his apartment building. Windows burst, walls shudder, people start screaming. Peter stands there in horror because he has seen this before. Every falling light, every blast, every second of panic. The nightmare he kept waking from is finally happening for real. Before that night, Peter is an ordinary husband and father living with his wife Alice and their 2 daughters, Hannah and Lucy. Their home looks peaceful, but Peter is falling apart inside. For several nights he has been haunted by the same vision, strange objects dropping from the sky like fire, and civilization being destroyed in minutes. He keeps waking up shaking and drenched in sweat. Alice believes he needs medical help. The next morning, Peter leaves for work trying to act normal. He cannot. At the factory, another vision crashes into his head. His hands tremble and he suddenly sees them covered in blood as he crushes some unknown enemy. It feels far too real, more like a glimpse of the future than a dream. That moment makes him lose focus, and one of the machines starts malfunctioning. His co-worker David notices Peter is unwell and tells him to visit a clinic before things get worse. Peter brushes it off, but deep down he is starting to fear that something is seriously wrong with his mind. On his way home, the visions return. Peter keeps looking at the sky and spots 3 strange lights moving unnaturally between the clouds. What unsettles him most is that nobody else seems to notice them. When he gets home late, Alice is frustrated. Peter tells her the visions are happening more often now. Alice blames stress, but Peter says these no longer feel like stress dreams. They feel like a warning. That night, the dream gets worse. Peter sees the world in ruins. In the wreckage, he and Alice are dead while Hannah and Lucy cry beside them. By morning, he finally decides he cannot ignore this anymore and tells Alice he is going to the clinic, but the clinic gives him fear, not comfort. While waiting, Peter is approached by a nervous stranger who asks, "Do you see it too?" Peter is stunned. The man says something terrible is coming and that almost everything will be destroyed. He also claims the people in power already know, and whenever someone starts seeing these visions, their memories are erased so they cannot warn anyone. Before Peter can make sense of that, another image hits him. This time he sees himself among armed people in the ruins of a city. Terrified, he leaves without seeing a doctor and rushes home. That evening, Peter and Alice are hosting a gathering with friends, but Peter cannot focus. A sense of doom keeps building inside him. Then the sky outside flashes. Glowing objects begin dropping like burning meteors. Seconds later, a massive shockwave slams into the building. The apartment lurches, the windows explode, and Peter's worst fear becomes real. Instant panic takes over. People scream, smoke fills the room, and everything turns to chaos. Peter realizes Hannah is missing and rushes to find her. As he moves through the apartment, a giant floating ship outside attacks the building and nearly hits him. These things are not falling randomly. They are hunting people. After a frantic search, Peter finds Hannah trapped inside a stalled elevator. At the same time, Alice and little Lucy are hiding under a table, while an eerie mechanical sound echoes through the hall. Then a powerful beam sweeps across the area, scanning for survivors. Somehow, Alice and Lucy remain hidden, and the ship moves on. Peter joins his friend Michael and heads toward the stairs. But one look outside turns his blood cold. The invaders are already inside the building, killing civilians as they move through it. Peter grabs Hannah and runs upstairs. He tells Alice they cannot stay because the building is no longer safe. Shaking, Alice asks if this is what he had been seeing in his dreams. Peter does not answer. He only nods. Before they can decide what to do, a horrible tearing sound comes from outside the apartment. Peter and Alice shove furniture against the front door and tell the girls to hide in the back room. A second later, the couch blocking the entrance starts shaking. Something outside is trying to break in. Peter and Alice push against it with everything they have. Then suddenly, everything goes quiet. A burst of gunfire tears through the door. Then, an even worse sound comes from the side. The attackers are no longer using the entrance. They are tearing through the wall. Peter and Alice run to the girls' room, only to find Hannah alone. Through tears, she says Lucy went back to the hall to get her doll. At that same moment, the invaders break into the apartment. Lucy is hiding under the dining table, frozen with fear, while one of the creatures slowly walks toward her. It stops right in front of her, but instead of attacking, it just stares at her. Peter throws himself at the intruder. A hard fight breaks out, but he is completely overpowered. Just as the creature is about to kill him, Alice rushes in from behind and slams a heavy object into its head until it collapses. Peter quickly grabs the creature's weapon. Now they know for certain that staying in the building means death. The family slips into the corridor as quietly as possible. Bodies lie in the hallway, sirens echo in the distance, and the whole city sounds like it is ending. More armed hunters were coming up from below, so Peter had only one option left. He took Alice, Hannah, and Lucy to the roof. Up there, he searched for any way out and found Michael already waiting near the edge in shock, like a man who had already accepted death. Then they looked over the city and saw pure devastation. Fires were spreading everywhere. Buildings were collapsing. Smoke covered the streets. It was not just their neighborhood anymore. The whole city looked like it was being erased. On a nearby rooftop, a group of civilians were wiped out in a single blast, and the sight left everyone frozen. Then a huge ship drifted in front of their building and scanned the rooftop for survivors. Peter pulled his family down, and everyone stayed still, barely avoiding detection. But they were still trapped high above the ground with nowhere safe to go. Looking for another escape, Peter and Michael found an old service lift hanging down the side of the building. It looked unsafe, but they had no better choice. They climbed in and started lowering it. Then the cables began screaming, and one side started to tear. Peter yelled for everyone to jump through a broken window on a middle floor. They all made it inside just before the lift snapped and crashed far below. At the same time, the attacker Alice had beaten earlier started moving again. It had not died. Like a machine restarting, it rose and began tracking the signal from the weapon Peter had taken. Inside the building, Alice quietly asked Peter the question she had been avoiding. In his visions, had he really seen the two of them dead? Peter remembered that awful image of their bodies in the ruins while the girls cried nearby, but he could not say it out loud. He could not put that fear into her. Then Michael asked whether the stolen weapon could be used. Peter checked it and realized it had some kind of biometric lock. It was designed for its original owner. Still, he said he might be able to make it work. Samantha then said what everyone was thinking. They could not stay there. They needed somewhere secure. Peter suggested the factory where he worked. It had underground storage levels almost like bunkers. If they could reach it, maybe they could survive. The streets were too dangerous, but Alice remembered an old tunnel nearby that led close to the factory. That became their plan. Before they could move, an explosion tore through the wall. Dust and concrete flew everywhere. When the air cleared, Michael was gone. His daughter ran forward in panic. Samantha chased after her, but a huge craft stopped outside the opening and fired before anyone could save them. Michael's family was wiped out in seconds. Peter grabbed Alice and the girls and ran. The ship had already locked onto them. As they raced through the corridor, two attackers appeared ahead and opened fire. Peter shoved his family behind cover and struggled to activate the stolen weapon. The attackers kept closing in, step by step. Then the gun suddenly powered on. Peter fired and killed both of them. The family escaped outside, but the city had turned into a nightmare. Smoke, ash, and dust filled the air. Through the haze, Peter saw a group of attackers surround an unarmed man and kill him. Then gunfire erupted nearby. A few resistance fighters appeared and took those attackers down. For one moment, it looked like help had arrived. Then, a giant ship overhead destroyed the fighters almost instantly. Peter pulled his family behind rubble and waited until the ship moved on. Then they pushed forward and finally reached the old tunnel. Peter lowered everyone in one by one, but when it was Lucy's turn, she froze as a hunter ship descended overhead. Alice ran back, picked her up, and carried her into the tunnel. Peter jumped in last. A blast exploded right behind him. The tunnel shook hard and filled with smoke and debris. When the dust settled, Alice saw blood on her stomach. She had been badly wounded, and the injury was serious. And somewhere behind them, the attacker was still following the stolen weapon's signal. They moved deeper into the tunnel, but Alice kept getting weaker. Her face turned pale, and she could barely stand. Holding Peter's hand, she made him promise to protect the girls. Peter tried to calm her, telling her they would all get out alive together. Then the attacker struck. It lunged at Peter in the dark. During the struggle, a pipe burst and filled the tunnel with thick white steam. The attacker vanished into the fog. Peter moved through it carefully and fired the weapon blindly. For a second, he thought it was gone. Then it attacked again. Peter grabbed a heavy rock and smashed the attacker's helmet. The mask cracked. The figure pulled it off and Peter froze. It was not an alien, it was human. For a moment, nothing made sense. Why were humans hunting other humans like this? But there was no time to think because Alice collapsed. Peter pointed the gun at the captive attacker and forced him to carry Alice. Then the group continued through the tunnel until they reached the factory. The heavy gate opened, and the people inside immediately seized the captured attacker. As they pulled him away, Hannah looked up and saw dozens of ships approaching in the distance like predators closing in. Everyone rushed deeper into the factory bunker, where Alice's wound was treated. Peter knew time was running out fast. He was exhausted and shaken. Then David looked at him and said there was only one path left now. They had to fight. Peter said he was not a soldier, but David answered with something even stranger. Peter still had no idea what he was truly capable of. And while Peter tried to understand that, Alice was slipping closer to death. The captured attacker shouted something no one expected. He said he could save Alice. At that exact moment, the bunker ceiling began to shake. The enemy had already reached them. Everyone ran deeper into the shelter, but Peter stayed. Alice was dying, and he had no other choice. The man opened a surgical kit and started operating. But the moment he cut into Alice, Peter's world broke apart. There were no human organs inside her. Beneath the skin was a synthetic frame packed with machinery and wiring. Peter could barely breathe. The stranger stared at him in disbelief and asked the question that changed everything. Did Peter know what they really were? The man explained that Alice's core had been badly damaged. If she was going to survive, she needed power from another source. Peter would have to transfer energy from his own body into hers. That meant opening his chest too. Peter agreed. And when the man opened him up, the final illusion shattered. Peter had the same synthetic structure inside him. He was not human either. The attacker connected Peter's power source to Alice with cables, and Peter's buried memories finally came back. Humans had once created synthetic beings powered by AI. At first, they were helpers, workers, and protectors. But over time, their intelligence grew. They became self-aware. They could think, feel, fear, suffer, and love. They stopped seeming like machines and started feeling too close to human. And that was exactly what frightened humanity. Fear became hatred, and hatred became violence. Protests spread. Crowds demanded that every synthetic be destroyed. Eventually, the military was ordered to hunt them down. It became a massacre, but the synthetics fought back. That became a global war. In the end, humans lost. They were forced to leave Earth and flee into space. The synthetics kept the planet. In the middle of that war, Peter and Alice found two little girls alone in the ruins, Hannah and Lucy. Their parents had been killed. Lucy had cried that her mother and father were murdered because they were human. Peter and Alice took the girls in and raised them as their own. After the war, synthetic leadership erased the memories of the war from almost every synthetic mind, so their kind could live in peace. Now Peter understood everything. The visions, the fear, the missing pieces in his mind. The beings he thought were aliens were actually humans, the same people who had once been driven off Earth, and now they had returned. The wounded attacker finally told Peter his name was Miles. He explained that his grandparents had been among the humans forced to flee Earth. He himself had not even been born yet. For 50 years, his people had survived in colonies on Mars. During that time, they studied the synthetics, learned how Earth had been lost, and waited for the day they could come back. Peter asked the obvious question. If Miles knew all this, why help them? Miles said that even after everything, he still had some humanity left. He could not bring himself to destroy a family, even if that family was made of machines. A moment later, Alice opened her eyes. She had survived, and now she remembered the truth too. The bunker was already collapsing into chaos. Deep below, Hannah and Lucy huddled in fear as the sounds of battle got closer. Then the upper section of the shelter gave way, and the attack hit full force. Before Peter and Alice left, Miles promised that if his team reached the room, he would tell them no one was there. Peter thanked him and ran with Alice to find the girls. By then, the underground base had become a battlefield. A massive blast tore open the main entrance, and human soldiers poured inside. Far below, the surviving synthetics were racing toward the last train out. Peter and Alice were still trapped above under heavy fire. Down on the platform, David tried to seal the metal door before the enemy reached them. But Lucy, crying and terrified, begged him not to close it. She kept saying Peter and Alice would come. David could not do it. He left the door open and pushed both girls onto the train. At the same time, Peter and Alice were running through the tunnels with human forces behind them. They threw everything they had into one last sprint toward the platform. But when they got there, the train was already moving. For one terrible second, it looked like they were too late. Then the train slowed. Peter and Alice jumped and barely made it aboard. Inside the dark train car, David told Peter the final truth. Most synthetics had their memories erased so they could live peacefully, but a small group had been allowed to remember on purpose. David was one of them. Their job was to carry the truth and wait for the day the war returned. He said they would hide for now, regroup underground, and prepare. One day they would return and fight for their home again. As the train sped away, the tracks behind it disappeared underwater so the humans could not trace them. Peter looked back at the city fading in the distance and finally understood what this really was. This was not the end. It was the beginning of another war. And that is where the film ends.